All right, well, welcome back to Living with Parkinson's, the good, the bad, and the reality. I'm Bryce, and if you're new here, this podcast is all about honest conversations about life with Parkinson's, sharing the highs, the lows, and everything in between. So today, we're diving into something that every person with Parkinson's deals with at some point, medications. When I was first diagnosed, I had no idea how much my medication plan would evolve over time. I thought that I'd get a prescription, I'd take my pills, and that would be about it. But as I've learned over the last almost 15 years, Parkinson's medication is not a one size fits all, and it definitely is not a static plan. Again, I've said this many, many times, but again, progressive disease, progressive plan, right? It's going to keep changing. So anyway, in this episode, I'm going to share with you my personal journey with Parkinson's medications, right? So my Parkinson's medications. So what I took in the first 5 years and how that changed between, years 5 and 10, and what medication looks like now going into 15 years in. So if you've been on Parkinson's medication for a while, I'd love to hear your experience. Drop a comment in the comment section below and let me know how your medications has changed. Your medication has changed over the years. But anyway, let's get into this because this is really I get so many questions about medications. What do you take? How much do you take? And I make a joke, and hopefully it doesn't offend. It's not an offensive type of joke, but I always say this. It's like what are the first things you say to somebody when you meet another person with Parkinson's? There's two things that every time I meet somebody who has Parkinson's, it's almost like the icebreaker. It's like, oh, you have Parkinson's. Oh, wow. Okay. When were you diagnosed, or how long were you diagnosed, and how many yellow pills do you take? And it's like our common ground. It's like our handshake, our high five. It's like, how long have you had it, and how many yellow pills do you take? So I will tell you how many yellow pills I take a day, and then we'll get into it right now. So actually, I won't tell you. I'll tell you at the end, but it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit. I think it's quite a bit. Maybe it's not quite a bit, but it'd be cool to see how many you're taking, or how many you're on as well, so we can kind of compare notes. But anyway, again, I want to also remind you that, again, as I said, it's not a cookie cutter here. It's not a one shoe fits all kind of scenario. So just because I take X number of pills X number of times a day doesn't mean you have to. Maybe you take more, maybe you take less, and it doesn't mean one of us is right or wrong. It's what works for you, what works for you and your body, what gives you the best relief of the symptoms that you need and can and want. And so I caution everything that I do whenever I think about changing medications or medications, when I think about adding more medication or taking some off or taking this quicker, sooner, longer, whatever it might be, I always do it in cooperation with my movement disorder specialist, my GP, my healthcare team, really. So I encourage you. So anything you do today, all I can say is this: is like, take some notes, because the one thing that I've heard, and again, you look pretty good. For 15 years in, your symptoms are pretty under control. I guess I should say thank you. If someone says that, I used to get offended. They'll be like, you look good. I'm like, oh, no, what? You don't think I have this? Think I'm lying to you? That type of thing. But I guess the reality is I should just say, if someone says, hey, you don't look like Parkinson's, I'm like, right on. Thanks a lot. It's working anyway. Anyway, let's get into this. So again, I want to talk to you about, how I started, what I started on, what I took, and just so you know. So if we go back to when I was diagnosed, so this was my initial medication plan when I was diagnosed. And when I was first prescribed medication, I started on the Levodopa, Carbidopa, right? So Levodopa Carb, that's what we call them, or the Levo Carb, we call them. And so today, this is kind of the size of the pill bottle that I'm going to look in the other camera, see what I got it. That's the type of size I've got. So it looks like I am actually getting really low. I'm going to actually have to get some more. And you got to be really careful with this stuff because it's very finite, right? It turns into dust on the bottom if you bounce around too much, and it melts in your pocket. I found that out too. So that's not a lot there. That's maybe not even a day's worth for me right now in this bottle left. So anyway, that's Levodopa Carb. I started on the 100 by 25 mgs, right? Milligrams, 100 by 25. And so when I first was prescribed these, I was taking one of these pills every 4 hours. That was my original prescription. So one pill every 4 hours. If you're going to hypothetically say you're up for what, I don't know, 16 hours, like just figure that out. It's not a lot, right? I was taking maybe 4 pills a day, if that makes sense. And the way that I started taking my medication and the way I take it today, even today, is I don't have a prescribed time that I take it. I take it in prescribed durations. So again, with the first diagnosis, it was one of those pills every 4 hours. Um, Plus, I also had a um, one Pramipexole, and I took that one time a day. So I took it with my very first pill, very first Levodopa pill. So I took, basically, I wake up and I take one Levodopa and one Pramipexole. They come in, one of those kind of bottles, Pramipexole. Yeah, and actually, I got a definite. I wanted to make sure I looked it up, so I wasn't just kind of giving you like false narratives. And I'll put in the description as well of the video. I'll list them out so you can copy and paste them if you ever want to look it up. But Pramipexole, where was I here? Pramipexole. Well, anyway, I'll put it in the description. It's an antagonist. So in other words, I take it. What I do is I take it to help my levodopa last longer. Right, so it's supposed to make my levodopa kind of go further to get to my, to try to avoid the off and on situation. And if you're new to Parkinson's, or you have a loved one that has Parkinson's, or you have Parkinson's, and you're just diagnosed, you're kind of going on off. What are you talking about? So when you're in our world, when you're in this world, it's we call it on off. So on is when your medication's working just perfectly and you feel okay, you're feeling better, your symptoms are under control, you're on, your medication is really working well, and you're feeling decent, right? Off is when your medication is obviously off, when it's not working. So the reality is that you're trying to, for me personally, what I try to do is I'm trying not to go off. That's what people get DBS, like deep brain stimulation, and things like that for, is to avoid the off periods, because the off periods are not good. They're not great at all. One of the big things that I struggled with my medication is that I would take my last pill, like whatever time I took my last shot of levodopa, and then I'd go to sleep. So my body was getting used to being on levodopa, or every 4 hours getting a dose of levodopa. So when I'd go to sleep, if I slept for 8 hours, it's like I've missed like maybe one or two doses. So I would wake up with like fully off, like completely off. As a matter of fact, I just do that. I wake up like almost completely off every morning. It's a struggle for me in the morning. It takes me about 30 minutes for my medication to kick in, and then I can move and do what I want to do. So when I first wake up, it's not like I'm getting out of bed and running around. I'm literally stiff, stuck, sore, and can't really move around that much. So that's me in the morning. I call myself the old man, the really, really old man. But when the med starts to come on, you can start feeling it, right? Again, I've said this many times. I'll say it again. It's like the Tin Man. It's like the Tin Man, excuse me, in the Wizard of Oz, when he's standing there stuck. And he's like can't move, and he's just stuck. And then Dorothy, or I think it was Dorothy from the Wizard of Oz. I think it's Dorothy, right? If it's not Dorothy, correct me in the comments, please. But I think it's Dorothy. Anyway, she comes over with a little oil can and she oils him, and he slowly starts to move, and he starts to release, and he's like, oh, okay. That's like me, and probably most of you, when that levodopa starts to kick in. So it's really good. And I've said this again, is that I was really pissed off with my movement disorder specialist when we started trying to figure out what that cocktail should look like. So in other words, I started off with the one pill, and I should have said that first before the Pramipexole came into play. I started off with the one pill, and what happened was I would take that pill, and we tried it like for a couple of weeks and see if it made a big difference, didn't make a big difference, or if it made a huge difference. And so it was okay. I was feeling better, and after like a week or two, I'd come back to the neurologist. We'd talk on the phone and say, how are you feeling now compared to when you were in the old days, before you started feeling the symptoms and the stiffness and the soreness and the pain and the tremors and stuff? How are you? How would you compare how you're feeling today? So on the one pill every 4 hours, I'd say I was feeling like, I don't know, maybe 50%, like close, maybe half of as good. Oh, geez, my God, I'm horrible at this. Half as good as I was before, half as good as I was in the past. And so he said, okay, so what we'll do now is we'll take that up to 2 levodopas every 4 hours. 2 levodopas every 4 hours. So I did that for like 2 weeks. And I'll tell you what, that at that time, so I'm going back 15 years ago, I was 40 years old when I diagnosed. So it's like 14 and a half years. I'm not quite 55 yet. I'll be 55 in September. So, the 2 pills, I actually felt really good. It was like for the first time I realized And and you might probably experience this, and I know that I've talked to so many of you that have experienced this, that when you started getting that tremor or that indication that there was something wrong, by the time you got diagnosed, you can actually go back to years before. And I've got a video on that too, like the early signs of Parkinson's that you might have missed. Some people lost their smell long before they were diagnosed with Parkinson's. So I was like, man, I haven't felt this good in, my Lord, probably like 5 years, right? And then this is just being diagnosed. I'm like, I haven't felt this good in like 5 years. So I was so excited. I was so happy. I couldn't wait to go back into his office and go, thank you, doc. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Like, man, it's a miracle. I feel like I can move again. I feel like I could run around and go play, hockey, or skate around, I guess, and play hockey. And this was when he pissed me off, because then he said, so how would you say you're feeling? I'm like, I'm 100%. I feel 100%. Like, you've given me back my life. Like, I feel like 100%. To which he replied, okay, good. Now we're going to cut you back. And I said, what do you mean cut me back? And he goes, I don't want you feeling great. I want you feeling good. I want to feel great. Why can't I feel great? I want to feel great. No, I want you to feel good. No, I want to feel great. We had a bit of an argument. I said, no, I want to feel great. I don't care what you're saying. I want to feel, why would I not want to feel this way? Why do I want to go back and feel the stiffness again? Why do I want to go back to that? And he said, the longer that the lower dose that we can take, right? The lower dose you can take, the studies have shown that it is held back, right? It's pushed back these side effects of the medication. And one of the big side effects of levodopa, as I'm sure you've heard of, is dyskinesia, like those involuntary movements of your body swaying, right? So, when if you've either taken too much levodopa or after you've taken levodopa for quite a while, and my understanding is about 3 to 4 years of taking levodopa is when you should start, when people start to kind of really sense these side effects. But that dyskinesia is that swaying movement, right? Like the involuntary. You don't want to do this, but you're doing it. You're moving around a lot. You're kind of going back and forth, and it's involuntary, or you got some tics and tricks, and that is dyskinesia, and that's a side effect of the levodopa. And again, normally 3 to 4 years. So I'll say this to you: if you look at me right now, not bad, kind of still, right? That's 14 and a half years on levodopa. Okay, so now I thank him. Now I'm like, thank you. If that's what it was, then thank you. If that's kept these side effects, minimal or down. I'm not saying I don't have them. Sometimes I start to sway a bit, and you'll see it. I'll start to kind of move, but I'm not aggressively moving. The only time I've ever really felt that really, really moving, like wildly out of control, is when I've taken too much levodopa. And then you might ask, well, how can you take too much? You were told to take, your 2 pills or whatever it was. And I'll get into that a little bit later. So I'll tell you a little bit about that experiment and how that also works and what I do in some cases. But anyway, so we cut me back to 1.5. So that was it. That's where I sat. And then we added the Pramipexole to it to extend it as long as I could to get to the 4 hours. So for my first 2 years, I took 1.5 levodopa, and it's the 100 over 25. I took that, 1.5 every 4 hours and 1 Pramipexole. And I also, at the time, was taking another pill that he had prescribed, that my movement disorder specialist prescribed, and that was for depression and anxiety. So I guess my depression had, I was telling him I was feeling slow and weak and tired and unmotivated, and that's when I started on that medication for that at the same time. And that was called, actually, I wasn't not paying attention there. That was called Citalopram. Citalopram. So I started taking one of those in the morning as well. So literally I was taking 1.5 to 3.5 pills when I first woke up, and then I was taking 1.5 every 4 hours. Fantastic, great. And that's kind of how I started. That was my journey of starting. And the goal early, and I said this earlier, but the real goal was to control my symptoms, right? The stiffness, my slowness, and I had mild tremors, right? But it was really the stiffness and the slowness for me. That was my goal. I wanted those to be under control, and in those early years, like the medication worked really well. Like my symptoms were manageable, and I felt like I had things under control, right? Excuse me. But after a few years, I started to notice some changes, right? The medication didn't last as long, or I'd start having those off periods before my next dose was due. So again, I would normally notice I would get to like 3.5 hours, almost to like, 3 hours, 45 minutes, and I'd start feeling tired. I'd start getting some brain fog. I'd start kind of, I wasn't slurring then yet. I wasn't, my voice was under control back then, but it was really more the brain fog. I'd start getting a headache. Start feeling kind of mopey, if that's the right word to say, mopey. And it was getting around that probably around that 3.5 hour mark is when I really starting to feel it. So, what did I do? So, well, basically my doctor increased the dosage, right? And that worked for a while. But I also started experimenting with the timing, like learning when to take the meds, like when to take them, and then how to adjust them around my schedule. And that was massively huge for me. So at that point, we transitioned, and I went to no, actually, I ended up going to 3 pills every 4 hours. So I actually jumped from 1.5 of the levodopa to 3 levodopa every 4 hours, and that is kind of what I needed. That's what I would get there. I wasn't quite getting to the 4 hours, but I was close enough. So if I had to be stiff or put up with a feeling like a little bit for 10 minutes, I was okay with that, right? But the bigger thing that I noticed is that those things were happening to me, like that stiffness, the off periods, the shortest, the time frame in between, being like not making it as far as I was making it, was really around my schedule. So for me personally, when I'm doing something physical, so if I'm going to cut the grass, I work through that levodopa, man. I burn it off fast. So when I'm gonna do something physical, like cut the grass, I'm gonna go do something workout. I'm gonna go and I'm helping somebody move. I add 1 pill a day. I add 1 pill to every dose, just monetarily in that time, and I do that. Or if I'm at a speaking engagement and I know that I'm going to be, going off, I know I'm getting close, or my nerves, my stress, like, you realize, right, that when you're stressed out, so if you're stressed out, your nerves, your anxiety, your stress, it accentuates your symptoms, right? So you're going to, I shake more, I tremor more, I'm more painful, I'm more like tired, everything else when I'm more stressed out, when I don't have the right time and sleep. So many things go with your medication. So I had to start learning in that, probably around like that around year 4 and 5, I was like, okay, my sleep's really important. I need my sleep. And then I need to regulate my sleep, and I need to watch what I eat. And, protein, for example, people say avoid protein. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? I love steak. I love chicken. I'm Parkinson's, man. Like, don't throw more crap at me, right? So I'm gonna eat that stuff, but I tend to take, like, if I'm having steak, I'll add a pill or half a pill to it, just whatever feels right and good. And when I say that, my doctor knows, and he's given me free reign. So he said, just don't go crazy, but if you need it, take it. And if you need extra, take extra. And if you're feeling that you're having a really bad day and everything's off and you take your pills and nothing's happening, he says, take some more. Like, and even if you take too much, right? Even if you just, whatever, you take a handful and you have that dyskinesia, it's going to go away. And it's okay. You're not going to hurt yourself. You're not going to kill yourself. So, then again, everything that, and then I write it all down, what I did, how I did it, when I did it. I wrote it in my little journal, and I recommend that if you don't have a journal, get a bloody journal, get a doctor journal, man. And that's the one you're going to go back to. You're only going to see this doctor maybe every 6 months, right? Maybe some of you are lucky, you get sooner. Where I'm from, we see our I call him the Parkinson doctor every 6 months. Well, how the hell do you remember what happened 5 months ago, right? Oh my God, what was I going to tell the doctor? So we have this book. It's like a brown book, and it sits up in the kitchen. And when I experiment or I try something, or I'm really realizing things are not starting to work right for me, I write it down. I write the date and when it was, and then if it's being consistent, then I also write down what I'm doing. Did I change something? Did I, am I not, when did I go to sleep? When did I wake up? How many hours sleep am I getting? What am I eating? Am I exercising? What am I doing that could affect this medication? And then when I go back to my neurologist or my movement disorder specialist every 6 months, we talk about it. And it's like, hey, just because when you are going to do something physical, you need more, that doesn't mean we're going to put you on more all the time. So, in that moment, you do this. You take one extra pill or whatever it might be. And again, I'm talking about, this is the first 5 years. This is around year 4 and 5 is when I started doing that. So, you have to experiment. It's not going to hurt you to experiment. You need to do what feels right for you. Everything I'm saying is how it felt right for me. Doesn't mean it's right for you, but you need to find out what is right for you. And how do you find that out? Unless you experiment. How do you do that? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. It is as good as mine. So here's the thing. So what would I wish I knew in those first 5 years? Well, medication isn't just to take it and forget it, right? Timing matters. I find when I'm more disciplined with, taking the right amount of pills, if I'm taking it every 4 hours, if I take it on the nose every 4 hours, on the nose every 4 hours, on the nose every 4 hours, I feel better. Right? If I'm start missing it, I was 10 minutes late, 20 minutes late, half an hour late, 10 minutes early, it starts to affect me. So for me, that timing is everything, right? So I set alarms on my phone. I've talked about this before. I got alarms, phone alarms go off. If they're all set, my wife's phone's alarms go off. My smart home goes off. It is insane. So it's like a full press alarm, and that thing doesn't shut off until I take my meds and say, I've took my meds. Okay, that's number one. And the other two is I wish I would have started exercising earlier. I hate exercising. So when I say I want to exercise, it's not because I like to exercise and I just don't like it. But I wish I would have started walking. I walk a lot. Walking, I wish I would have started walking earlier because it complements the meds. I just feel better on the days that I do it, right? When I have my meds on time, at the right time, and I'm doing some physical activity, I feel the best. So I wish I would have started that sooner. And this was also the phase that I started realizing that, Parkinson's was going to be a long game and not something that I could just treat and move on, right? It wasn't something I could just take and forget. And I think that's when that reality kicked in. And that's when I kind of kicked myself in the butt and said, you gotta do something. I gotta do more. I gotta do more. So that was really when that started kicking in. It was around that year 5. And I'm like, holy moly, this is with me for life. This 4-hour alarm is my life till the day I die, And it's funny, when I talk about medications, people say, well, you're used to taking pills. You're a pill guy. I'm not a pill guy. Matter of fact, I hadn't spent a night in the hospital in my entire life since I was a baby. I rarely took pills. I mean, I'd have to have the monster migraine before I took a Tylenol. Like I wasn't a pill guy. So this is new for me. So if you're sitting there going, well, I'm not a pill guy or pill person, and maybe, that's, hey, join the club, man. I rarely took pills, rarely went to the hospital, or, was rarely, everything was fine. I was A-okay, man. I thought it was great. But anyway, that's just me again. But, I'll ask you this, though. If you're in your first few years of Parkinson's, what's been your experience with medication so far? Like, just how has that gone? And do you have a doctor that you can talk to openly and say, let's try this, let's try that? And so what I used to do, because I would read something on the internet or see something and I'd go to my doctor and I'd write it down and I'd go to my doctor, hey, I saw this guy. He looked about my age. He looked pretty good. And, I asked him, how much Levodopa did he take? And he took this much. So what do you think? Should we try it? Or he was taking one of these things. Should we try it? Would that help me? And so that's what I do. And sometimes he said no, sometimes he said yes, but most of the time, because I was very reasonable as well, he would say, okay, let's try it and see if it makes a difference. And if it makes a difference, then we'll change it. But again, remembering that long game was taking as few amount of pills, few amount of Levodopa as I could, right, a day. Really, that's what it was. I was trying to, at a time, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So year 5 of 10, that year was just absolutely filled with changes and challenges. So as I got past the 5-year mark, I started to start shifting and things like I was shifting in my life around. And like I said, I was realizing I'm going to have to get used to this. This isn't going away. Maybe I just had this naive denial that it was going to go away. And so that's, it was right around that 5-year mark into the 6-year mark that things, it really started to shift, and it was more noticeable for me too. I was getting new symptoms, right? And then new symptoms came with, different, medications, right? I have started to experience really that real, excuse me, I started more of those motor fluctuations, more of those off periods, stiffness before the next dose, it was just really feeling weird. It was more inconsistency. I felt like hey, this is easy. I got this. I know how many pills to take. I know how often to take them. I nailed it. I can do it. And that's, clear sailing. But then again, and then I started realizing, I was getting like around the, 3 hours in, I'm starting to feel awful. I'm starting to feel stiff again. I was brain fog. My memory was going. My voice was starting to come down. In the morning time when I'd wake up after not being on anything all for a few hours or 8 hours or 9 hours. I mean, if I ever slept in, I was horrible. If I ever slept in, which was rare, it was awful. Like I'd be 11 hours without levodopa, and I was like, I couldn't move. I really was stuck. I was an old, really, really old guy. Um, and but more of that stiffness, that offness coming in probably around 3 hours. So that's when I had to adjust my dosage frequency, right? So now again, I was taking three, right? I was taking three levodopa every 4 hours, and I had to I had the choice to make, and what the choice that we made was I went, rather than going up to 4 or 5 every 4 hours, it could have been 6 every 4 hours. I went down to 3 hours. So now I started taking three levodopa every 3 hours. And I also added in the pramipexole in there. So now I went up to 3 pramipexole. So now my first dose, and this is the way it is today. So this is like year 6 or 7, and now I've been flying on this one for 7 years. That my first dose is the levodopa and a pramipexole. 3 hours later, I take levodopa, pramipexole. 3 hours later, levodopa, pramipexole. And the pramipexole are, how many milligrams? 1 milligram. So I take 3 1 milligram pills a day. Sorry, I just said that's how I am today, and it's not. So, but the schedule is the same, and I'll explain that in a minute. So that's where I was going to, was the 3 hours. So then I'm on this 3 hour schedule, and I'm doing it again all day long. So if you can figure that out. So if you're up for 15 hours and you're doing, 15 hours, you're doing every three hours. What is that? That's five shots of medication at 3 pills, right? So now I'm at 15, I guess. Five by 3 is 15. So anyway, so that's again, so the pramipexole now, it increased that as well. So really what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get through the 3 hours without an off period. That's my goal, right? I want to go through, and then notice 3 hours is as far as I could make it. So now I've got the pramipexole rolling. I've got the levodopa rolling. So 3 and 1 every morning and every 3 hours. And what I'm doing, but now some of those side effects were starting to appear a little bit, just a little bit, not bad, but I started noticing some like mild side effects, like the fatigue, just little things were starting to really kick in a bit more for me. I can feel like my body, it's so crazy. My body wants to go, right? Like my body wants to fly around. My body wants to move. Like I can feel it right now. If I let go, it going. So right now I still have some control over it. I can hold it in, but if I'm just not paying attention and I'm just sort of sitting, hanging out, we're just like, I'm not, I want to move, right? I want to move my leg, my feet, and move quite a bit. So, but that was new. That's coming around that year 5, 6, 7. That really started coming, and so, everything started becoming a balancing act. Right? Again, now I'm back to finding the right dosage, right? The right dosage at the right duration, and again, that's like, oh my God, is this my life? Is this my life? And so that's where, again, I had to start looking at my schedule, my daily schedule, and what it looked like. And I realized as well that, I know I need 30 minutes, and minimum 30 minutes, like 30 minutes just to move, right? 30 minutes to kind of brain fog to release. 30 minutes now, when I wake up, I slurring my words. So now not only am I, if I tried to move around the bed in the morning, it was like that little, I've become like a 150-year-old little old man. And now I sounded like I was a drunk little old man, because my voice slowed down and I was slurring away. Oh, can I get my, good morning, good morning, good morning. That's kind of what I sound like in the morning. And I'm like, well, that's new. Holy moly, I didn't like that one, but that's what it's, that's what it's at. And that right there, like that little stutter, what the hell? I mean, I've been a speaker my whole life. That's what I do. This is my wheelhouse. I love it. I enjoy it. I'm so thankful for the opportunity to sit down and be able to do this, because it's kind of what I like to do. And then all of a sudden I start this little stutter thing going. I'm like, what is that stutter thing about? And memory recall loss. And I'm like, oh my word, this is awful. Like, this is bad. That's why I don't want that off period. Like, as long as I can do it, I don't want it. Right. So here I am now. So it's 14 and a half years in. And what does my medication look like today? And now I'll tell you this. So I'm almost 15 years in, but I've been on this schedule now for 1 year now. And what happened was, I went to my doctor. It was like, about a year ago, and I said, okay, so here's the thing. And I guess I was trying to brain trick myself. I didn't realize this, but here I went to my doctor. I said, "Here's the thing. I'm starting to feel like I'm really starting to now. I can, for the first 5 years, I noticed the progression, but it was really slow. I could just notice it later. Like, I can't do that anymore. That's a little bit slower." But I said, I'm really noticing. I can really see it. I can see my face. My face is more masked, right? Like I can feel the mask more, and I know I'm very vain, so I don't really like that. But I can sense that. I can sense my more of a masking coming on. I know I'm slower, right? I could always kind of make up for it in the past. Like I'd be slow, but then I could go, and I'd be slow, and then I could go. But now I know I'm feeling slower. I just know it. I'm thinking slower. Cognitively, I'm thinking slower, and I know, and I'm like, it's just, I don't like that. And at that point he goes, well, then we need to eat, we need to increase your medication or your duration, whatever where we're at, and we got to play with it, because that's the first sign. Like when you start really noticing, he told me that, then you need more, or you need some more. And I'm gonna say it like this, probably like, well, man, I don't want to take it. I'm so scared of the side effects of the levodopa. I'm so scared of the side effects of levodopa. And I've known people that have been diagnosed. And if you've been diagnosed and you haven't started the medication, let me ask you this. What's the worst that could happen? Like, you think about it from right now, that I believe this, that the sooner you deal with this, and the sooner you get on the right flow of medication at the right time of day, and get your exercise plans going, get your brain things going, get things in place to help you, the longer you're going to hold this thing off. I believe it. And again, you can look at proof in the pudding if you want. It's working for me, and I'm just trying to help throw it out for you. It might not be the same. And please, everybody's different. Everybody has their own story, and there's no condemnation. I think I'm saying everybody progresses at different rates and what you're supposed to progress at. So this is just my story and how it works. But what did I say the side effects, the most common side effects of levodopa are? Right? Is the involuntary movements of the body and some swaying. What are the side of what are your symptoms of Parkinson's? Are they involuntary movements? Are they swaying? Are they shaking? So what you're saying is, if I take this medication for too long, I'm gonna have Parkinson's? Is that what you're saying? That's why I say like you have it already. So for me, this is me. I would rather do this than not take the medication, or not take enough and be like this and talk like hi, and slipped over, and I'm so sore, and my body hurts, and I'm tired, and I can't move, and I'm having trouble remembering what's going on, and my tremor is just like out of hand, like it's like really, really, really going, and I know this tremor just doesn't stop, and I don't know what's happening. And so really, would you rather that than this? And being able to still, be what you are. So anyway, that's just, that maybe was for somebody. Take it if you want, take it if you leave it. But anyway, so today I am on, I do, what am I now? 4 tablets. So I'm doing 4 levodopa, 100/25 every 3 hours. Okay, every 3 hours. 4 every 3 hours. And I do 3 Pramipexole, 2 milligrams now. 3 Pramipexoles when I'm up to 2 milligrams 3 times a day, my first 3 pills. So that's and I should have mentioned too, around 3 years ago, I stopped taking the antidepressant, I can't remember what it's called. I don't want to look it up now. But again, it's all in the description below. But I stopped taking that as well. So I came off of that, increased these a little bit, and I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling not bad. Like I'm feeling, not great, but good. Is that, that makes my doctor happy when I say that. Not great, but good. So, but I have to be much more aware, right, of the timing, and because those delays, like, they're huge now. I'm noticing that if I was 20 minutes late on a pill, or 20 minutes late on my medication, or half an hour late on my medication before, it was like, okay, I'm a little late. I could feel it a little bit, but now my off periods are way more pronounced. And so I really have to adjust my schedule to ensure that I'm going to be able to take those medications. Like if I'm in a meeting or whatever, I need to be able to take those meds on time when I need them. So, and it comes back to saying, that's why everybody around me knows that I have it. It's not a big deal. If I'm in a board meeting, at Parkinson, I'm in a meeting at Parkinson Canada, and my alarm goes off, it's not a big, everybody, okay, Bryce, take your meds, right? Take your meds. And then I also tell people around me, So another matter of fact, so I was working an event, Michael J. Fox and Parkinson Canada, PDIQ. I host them, I moderate them, and here's a short little plug of we've got I'm doing two events this year, one in Toronto in October and one in Montreal in May. So if you're interested in coming out and seeing us, that'd be great. It's a great day. It's all day Saturday, and I moderate two panels, and I'm hosting the event, and it's an amazing, awesome panelists and stuff. So anyway, you can drop that in the comments and I can get back to you and give you more information. And I'd love to see you there. It's a free event. It's all cool. So Montreal and Toronto this year. Anyway, so when I'm doing those type of events, though, I mean, I literally plan my day around my meds, my meds around that day. I know, for example, if I have an early morning meeting at 9 a.m., then I need to be getting up at like 5. I need 5. I want to be on my second dose by the time my day starts, really, really starts, because I want to be fully on. I want, the brain fog to be gone and whatnot. And the other thing I was going to say, when I'm running those events, I have a lot of staff and a lot of my teams are there. But I've told them, if you start seeing me kind of slurring or, kind of seeing me shaking more and everything else, just ask me, hey, is it's time for your meds? And I won't be offended. And they do that. It's pretty cute. Actually, it's so funny. There was the last event I was at. I was in Vancouver. Was it Vancouver? No, it was Halifax. I was in Halifax, and I was on the stage, and my wife, they asked, my alarm had gone off, and she was texting me from home going, "Take your meds," and I wasn't getting back to her. So, she started texting people I work with, "Hey, tell Bryce to take his meds." Tell Bryce. And I came off the stage. I had like 4 of these, young people just going, "You need to take your meds right now. It's like really urgent." And Carmen really makes sure you take them. And so it's like really, really cute. So you find out that people actually love and care about you so much and want to be there for you. So, that's where that it takes a village sometimes. And trust me, at the end of the day, it's me that's happy, because those, like I said, those off periods, holy moly. And thankfully, I don't have any significant dyskinesia. I do experience it. I do experience the stiffness, the fatigues. I do experience the swaying. I get that. My foot sways, my leg sways, but it's okay. Managing, because here's the thing, managing Parkinson's now requires more than just medication. It's that full body, right? It's the exercise. It's the planning. Medication's a tool, not a cure. And that's one thing that you have to remember. Medication's a tool, not a cure. And it helps manage the symptoms, but it's still not a fix. And I'll say this as well, that right medication plan will evolve over time. So again, you got to remember this, what works today may not work in 5 years, may not work next year. And you need to advocate for yourself. You need to advocate for yourself. It's the key with your doctor. No one knows your body better than you. Nobody knows your body better than you. You have to be screaming from the rafters if you're not feeling something or something's not right. You have no choice. You need to do it, and you have to do it. And those are things that I've really, 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 really learned, and I think it's super important. And just remember that Parkinson's medications are a journey, and what worked in the beginning isn't always going to work later. And if you're feeling frustrated with your current medication, know this: you're not alone. We're all figuring this out. It's a work in progress. It's one of those things that you get to have because you have Parkinson's. It's, it's managing those frustrations. And what a fun episode. I had really a lot of fun here. So, and if this episode helped you at all, please, I really would love it if you want to take a moment and just like and comment and subscribe. It really, keeps the conversation going, and it helps, helps the channel, helps us get out there to hopefully reach more people. But anyway, thanks again for joining me. I really love you guys. I love this community, and I'm excited that it's growing, and I thank you for being with me along the journey. And I'm thankful that I can come on this journey with you. So make sure you say hi to me, and I'll see you again in the next one.